Okay, so you should have an assembly tab on your document that's blank, just except for an origin. If you don't have an assembly tab, you can just hit the plus sign here and do create assembly. And for this assembly today, what we're going to do is we're just going to assemble the train. We're not going to put it on the track today. So what we'll do is we start off by inserting the first piece, and we're going to insert the body first. And then remember, we don't want to just click somewhere to place it. If we click on the green check mark, it'll place it on the origin. But then we need to fix it in place. If I was to grab it and move it right now, it would still be able to move. But what I want to do is I want to right click and then do fix. So it fixes the position of our train body. So we can't move it around. So what we want to do now is start putting the train together by bringing in other parts that we know where to put them. So first, maybe we could bring in the smokestack. We know the smokestack needs to sit in here. So I'm going to insert a smokestack. So it inserts it like according to where it was on the origin in it when it was created as a part. So all we got to do is just kind of like, we can kind of just move it over there a little bit. But what we really need to do is mate it, right? So what this is going to be stuck in place. It doesn't need to move at all. So we're going to use a fastened mate. And then we need to select our mate connectors. So we move the mouse around to see what mate connectors it'll give us. And it looks like it wants to give me this one. So if you look where that is, ooh, that mate connector's down there a little bit. I don't want it that low because I don't know if I get a good mate connector right there. I want my mate connector to be up here a little bit. Can I get it up there or only down there? So it looks like that's the mate connector it wants to give me. So then that's a little bit down in the hole. So maybe if I pick this one, then it'll be fastened there. It's not lined up, right? Look at that. If it's not lined up, you can try flipping that, but that looks like it's just not at all what we want. So I'm going to do the X. And I'm going to try again. The fastened mate. Maybe I'll select the bottom or the mate on the. So if I select this point here, then I would want that to match up with a point at the top of that hole right there. There, that looks more like it. So now my smokestack is fastened to my train, and those little coordinates that we saw before, they just put those together. All right, so next maybe we could do the hitch magnet and the hitch peg. So I'm going to insert a hitch magnet. And you can like click to place it out there, and a hitch peg. Now these parts don't need to move either, so I can use a fastened mate. So I'm gonna select a fastened mate again. I want to get that little point lined up with that one. And so you can see that it lined those up and mated them the way we want them. Now, here's what you can do. You could click the green check here, and then you'd have to select fasten mate again. to do the hitch peg. If you click this green check down here, it accepts that mate and it keeps the mate tool open so that you can do another mate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm also going to do a fastened mate, but I'm going to take that point there and mate it here. And that looks like it's lined up correctly. So I can hit that green check. Now, if you hit the green check down there and you don't have any more mates to do, then you can just hit the red X to exit the mate tool. So right now, if you try to drag anything, these guys aren't moving because we used fasten mates on them. So how about the cow catcher next? So while we're putting the assembly together, we're going to notice a couple of errors that there were in the drawings that we were given. Because watch what happens when I bring a cow catcher in here. Okay, so take a look. I just tilt this a little bit. You can see that if the bottom holes line up here, then they don't line up with the top hole there. So we need to figure out what our mistake was here. And when I looked back at the drawings, I realized that the drawing for the cow catcher was a little deceiving. And so I fixed it to where instead of this right here being 0.5 above, it's really supposed to be 0.625 to match this dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my cow catcher part, open up that part, then figure out, let's see, that extrude is my pegs. So I'm going to edit my sketch here that defines my 3 pegs back there. I'll double click on that. And then you can see this is the measurement that says that this center is 0.5 inches up from the bottom. And I think the drawing was trying to say it was 0.5 inches up from here. And so that would make it so that it fits. So if we change this measurement to 0.625, it'll raise that one up. Then we accept it. It'll update the part, the extrude. And then if we go over to the assembly, it also updated the measurement in here. So now that peg will fit up there. So now what we can do is use a fastened mate. And we can say we want that center point there to line up with, we want it to be that one so that they're flush, right? That looks right. So we can go ahead and accept that. And you can't pull the parts off because they're fastened. So then next we need some wheels and axle pegs, right? So let me start by inserting an axle peg and a wheel. All right, then I'm going to, so now I need my peg to go through the hub of the wheel and then be fastened into here, into the body. So my axle peg is going to have a fastened mate with the body. And then my wheel needs to be able to spin around the axle peg. So I'm going to put a revolute mate between the wheel and the axle peg. Now, in order to do this, I'll start with the fastening the bolt to this hole. So you select this hole here, then you select a point on the bolt, and then it will try to put them together. And right now they're flipped the wrong way, so I'm going to do like that. But I don't need, the bolt can't be all the way screwed in like this. It needs to be out far enough for the wheel to fit in. So we need to know how wide that wheel is. So if we look back at the wheel, take a look at that sketch. The width of the wheel here is, click on it, it'll measure the length, 0.25. So the wheel is 0.25 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is in my assembly, I am going to, did this thing get fastened? Or when I clicked out of the assembly, I think it took me out of the fastening tool, or maybe it put that fasten on there. So if I click this one or double click it, it tells me it's the body and the axle peg. Okay, so that is the one. What I want to do is I want to select offset, and then you can see it's in the Z direction here, and I want it to make room for that wheel. So the wheel was 0.25, so I'll do like I'll make it just a little bit bigger. So 0.255, and then see how that goes. Oh, see, it sunk in too far, the wrong direction. So I need to just make that number negative 0.255. So now it's a fastened mate, but there's enough room for me to get my wheel in there now. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this mate. So now this bolt doesn't move. But what I want to do is I want to make a revolute mate between the wheel here and that surface of the bolt. So this is my revolute mate button. So I'm going to select that point right there, and I want that one to match up with that point right there. And that looks good. And then we want to just check it to make sure that the wheel spins, but the bolt doesn't move. So now we're going to need to make more wheels and pegs, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get my wheel and my peg, which is right here. I'm going to do control, so I select both of them. And then I'm going to right click and do copy. Oh, I didn't get the wheel, or didn't get the wheel too. You just click on both of them. You don't have to hold control. Click on both of them, then right click and then copy. And then you come out here, right click and paste two items. Now, I don't think that when we paste them, it's going to remember. Let's see if it remembers their mates. Do these come with mates? Ooh, it does come with mates because we copied them together. So this should have the revolute mate already built in because we copied both of those together. So then all we should have to do is do the fastened mate for the bolt and the body hole here. So fasten mate, and I want to do that spot there, and it's going to be this part of the bolt. What I can do to make sure I'm not getting this wheel is I can come over here and hide that wheel. And so now when I come here, I can make sure I'm getting the right spot on that bolt. Then I need to offset negative, wait, negative 0.255. And then I'm going to unhide the wheel and then see, nice, it rotates. So then I could select all 4 of those, copy, paste 4 items. Then I'm going to rotate them around 180 degrees-ish. You don't have to do that part, the rotating them around. It just makes it easier to line them up. So then I should be able to do, I'm going to go ahead and hide the wheels so it's easier to see the mate that I'm going to try to do. A fastened mate. In that spot and that spot with an offset of negative 0.255. I'm going to accept that. Then I'm going to come over here and put another one, another fasten mate between that spot and that spot. And then we also need the offset, negative 0.255. And then accept. And then I'm going to unhide those wheels. Make sure everything works right. Nice. So then the next thing we need to put on is the linkage arm that's going to connect these 2 posts. So I will insert a linkage arm. And then what kind of mate am I going to use here? The linkage arm needs to be able to rotate, right? The wheel is going to be turning, so this peg here needs to be able to spin inside of there. So that's also going to be a revolute mate. And so we're going to want to pick this point here and then this point there. Then it puts those together with a revolute mate. I want to accept that. Then I want to come over here and I want to do a revolute mate on this one too. So I want to make that center and that center go together. And then see if it'll solve. So we're gonna, okay. So see how at first it pulled it off the wheel? It pulled it off of there and then we had to solve it to put it back on. So let's accept it. Now, if you ever make a mate that conflicts with another mate, then they'll turn red over here. You got to watch out for that. But we need to put linkage pegs in there, right? So I'm gonna insert a linkage peg. And then this is a point at which we're going to discover another problem with the design that we were given. So I'm going to try to move this over close to where it's supposed to go. Okay, I'm going to need to rotate it. And now when you look at it, do you see the problem here? This thing is too big to go in that hole. Like there's some mistake happened somewhere. Now, I looked back at the picture for this, and it it gives us the diameter for this of 0.125, but the hole here has a diameter of 0.0625. So that's too small. We need to make this smaller than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our linkage peg, and we're going to change the diameter of it to 0.062. So I'm going to go to my linkage peg, double click on sketch 1. This right here is the measurement that tells us the diameter is 0.125. So I'm going to double click on that and change it to 0.062. Now when I accept that, that linkage peg looks more like the original picture did. So I've concluded that the measurement on the original picture was a typo and it was supposed to be 0.062. So now when we look back at our assembly, it's updated to where now this will fit in that hole. So now we're going to do a fastened mate because we don't want our pin to move. We're going to fasten it to the inside of this, but then the linkage arm will still be able to rotate around that. So fastened mate, that point there with that point there. And then we need one more. So I can copy and paste. Move this guy over here and make a fastened mate there. And there. And then I need to repeat that stuff on the other side over here. So I think I can just select these three things, copy, paste 3 items. And now the linkage peg didn't have a mate with the linkage arm, so these should come apart, maybe. Maybe not. And I wonder if that will cause a problem when I make a revolute mate. So I think what I'll do, I'm gonna delete these pegs and copy them separately. Because I don't want any mates that they brought over to mess up the way my wheels are gonna turn on this side. So I need revolute mates here so that the inside of this little peg here can revolve inside of the linkage arm. then another revolute mate. There and there. And then we need to put a couple of linkage pins in there, linkage pegs. I'll select these two. I'll just, yeah, maybe I'll copy and paste these. And then do fastened mates. So I'm gonna want that point fastened up to that point. But that is going the wrong direction, so I have to flip this little arrow. I'll accept that one, and then I want to mate again that spot with that spot, and then flip it so it's going the right way. Make sure everybody's moving like they're supposed to. Pretty close right there. Some tolerance issues maybe. So that's the kind of thing that we would look at before we tried to 3D print. We would look at tolerance issues like this. Are those going to hit each other? We might need to make our extrude here come out a little further to give us clearance there, or make that bolt a little shorter. But there we are. That is our assembled choo-choo train.